Ritesh Malik is president of the Canada-India Foundation that does a great deal of work in India-Canada relations. He joins me live. Ritesh, welcome. Thank you. I wish we were speaking in better circumstances, but clearly there is a very visible deterioration in India-Canada ties. I wanted to start because you're joining us just on the back of a very aggressive Indian Foreign Office press conference, which I'm sure you may have gotten the gist of, where the Indian government has confirmed the suspension of any visas in Canada. They've talked about a heightened sense of tension. What are you making of all of this? Opening comment from you, Ritesh.
Hi, it's very sad. I mean, what we've seen past 2, 3 days, I mean, this is very, very disturbing for us as Indo-Canadian community and responsible Canadians as well, because what we have seen in last few months, I would say, or how things have unfolded, that's very disturbing for all of us. We came to Canada. I mean, we never, afraid to discuss the issues. A lot of people, we felt we had, and we came here thinking that we are going to a country which is, great. Canada is a great country, but I think like last few months of developments have been not what we all anticipated will face in Canada. Vandalizing of temples, and no action from law enforcement or politicians. You just said, open threats to Hindus to leave Canada or go to India. I mean, these are not the things which, we expected from a country like Canada. Canada and India have had great relationship in the past. I mean, they both have so much in common as democracies. And, organizations like ours, Canada-India Foundation, we've played such an important role to bring the two countries together. We all remember those times when, India needed nuclear supplies for their
Ritesh,
civil
I want to come to some specifics, because the Indian government is talking about a heightened sense of tension. They've asked the Indian students there to register with the high commissions, consulates, mother.gov.in. So there is a sense of panic among families. You're obviously in touch with people in Canada. What can you tell us about the situation on the ground? Is there a real threat?
Okay, you have to understand that, when things like this happen, and when, there are security advisories given on both sides, and, open threats given to people. And we need to understand one basic thing, that when Canada accused India of this thing, like there is a sense of, like how I should put it, that, a lot of people have started seeing Indians in a different way. So I'm not saying there is a real threat on the ground, but there is a lot of panic. I mean, we all should, there are a lot of students. I mean, Canada gets about plus 200,000 students, and students are, like inexperienced, and, they always are worried about so many things. So this
Yeah,
has added to their anxiety. I
yeah.
mean, this has added to their anxiety, and we as foundation have been getting a lot of calls from students, their parents in India, that even business travelers wanting to come to Canada. That is it safe to come? We should come or not come? So these things are, of course, on the ground. I'm not saying there is real threat, but there is a lot of anxiety and panic amongst people, amongst
Yeah.
community.
No, because Ritesh, at this point of time, as the crossfire appears to escalate between both countries, the perception from India, and you are aware of this, is that the Trudeau government has done simply nothing against very, very open and dangerous calls for violence. Many of these Khalistani groups have published pictures, location details, phone numbers, addresses perhaps of Indian diplomats. You've got, another terror group openly threatening Indian Hindus over there, telling them to leave and go back to India. And yet all of this is being, described by Trudeau himself and his government as freedom of speech and not violative of any particular Canadian laws. There's a great trust deficit that is building in India's mind as far as Canada is concerned. And I'm not talking about the government, I'm talking about the people.
I'm not saying who is right or who is wrong, but I'll give you a small example.
Yes.
Like whatever incidents happened in BC, after that, we all saw, Indian diplomats, their posters all over the place, and they being targeted. I think what what Canada should have done is they should have reined these people in rather than providing security to Indian diplomats. So giving that message and providing security to Indian diplomats give the message that, okay, even federal government cannot do anything about this. Like I mean, the freedom of expression is a long debate been going on in Canada for long. And we always say freedom of expression is a charter right of Canadians, but unless and until it comes with a lot of responsibility, like you cannot give freedom of expression on pretext of freedom of expression. You can't be issuing threats. You cannot be issuing hate ideology to people.
Ritesh, you know this very well, and I understand that as the president of the Canada India Foundation, you must be a person who is building bridges. But if you think about it from the Indian perspective, these are open calls for violence. These are almost like supari posters. These are posters saying "Isko maar dalo, isko dhundo, isko maar dalo." Those are the kinds of things that are being called freedom of speech by the Trudeau government. There's no midway in this.
No, I mean, I think you're right saying this, and we feel the same as a community. I mean, nobody should, on pretext of freedom of expression or freedom of speech, do such things. And again, my only question is that, if these threats are being given and if these threats are real, like if these are real, for example, that is the reason only federal government provided RCMP cover or security to Indian diplomats. If these threats are not real, they would have not provided security. And my another question is, if these threats are real and you've provided security, what have you done to actually counter these people or counter these people who are issuing these threats? These are real questions which, we as Canadians need to introspect. We as, we all need to introspect these questions. We just cannot say that these threats are not real. If these are not real, like why would you provide security cover to Indian diplomats?
Okay. I have two more questions, Ritesh, and I appreciate your candor in these questions. There are so many millions of Indian families who have relatives in Canada. People who are studying there, children, etc. And like you said, there's a great deal of anxiety that is built up. What advice would you give? The Indian government, has said, please register at the embassy, register at the High Commission, and and when a government says, please ASAP register, that instantly triggers panic. So I want a realistic kind of assessment. What would you advise students there? I'm not trying to ask you to go out on a limb. I know it's a fluid situation, but what would you say to families and students there?
As you rightly said, it's a fluid situation and it's fast changing every day. Every morning you get up and you see new advisories or new press conference or new announcements, Canada pulling out diplomats and all that stuff. But I would just say, historically and, principally, Canada and India are good allies. I mean, these are temporary hiccups. And I would say sanity will prevail in the end, and both sides will sit down and talk to each other and resolve all the issues. But, the crux of the matter is that any civilized society, any progressive country like Canada needs to weigh in and introspect and see what is good for their society, our society. I mean, we are more concerned about what is future of our children here. I mean, we don't want to be living amidst people, who threaten people, who bully people, who openly issue threats against, peace-loving people. That's not the society we all want to, raise our children in. So I think at this moment, I think people on both sides should be calm and, they should not overreact. I mean, we got a lot of calls, people after, this guy from SFJ issued open threat to Hindus. We got a lot of calls and a lot of community members, community leaders, community organizations, temples, they are all in panic, but we only advise them not to overreact. I mean, these are fringe elements. Nobody cares for them. They don't have any say besides, a small section which has that ideology. But I think the important thing here for us as both countries is to sit down, talk, and, without appeasement politics or without trying to appease a certain section for votes, we should think what is good for both countries. I mean, like
But Ritesh, that's the thing. The appeasement has continued non-stop, and there doesn't appear to be any change in the Trudeau government's policies as far as Khalistani terrorists are concerned. I mean, this is not about the Sikh community. The Sikh community is an amazing, proud community that has contributed so much, to modern Canada,
No,
and are responsible for those
even
relations.
in,
But
even in,
even
even
these few are not being taken action against. That's the point.
because the problem is like Sikhs are great people, and there are some plenty of Sikhs in Canada all over the place in our circle who have immensely contributed in
Yes.
Canada, and they are very very loyal to India. They don't even talk about Khalistan. They don't even know what is this issue. But the thing is that these small elements are very vocal. And we guys have not been very vocal in terms of what is right. So I think what needs to change is all pro Canada India people need to come on a common platform and hold these leaders or politicians accountable for what they are doing. That has not happened in Canada. That is the reason, they think they need to appease them, they need to please them.
Okay, we leave it there for the moment. I think this is, like I said, a fluid situation. It requires a degree of calmness, but at least so far that
Yes.
calmness is not coming from either of the governments. So hopefully
Yeah.
the people will stay calm. The threat is still out there. We are not going to exaggerate the threat, but just for a moment to our viewers, I'd like to say, imagine if you're the parent of a student studying in Canada, or you have relatives in Canada, or you need to go there for some kind of family function. Imagine how uncertain everything is, thanks to the words of one man. And remember, and Ritesh, if you have time, I'll take one final question from you.
Sure.
The place where all of this started was Justin Trudeau linking India to the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. India today says we've not even received one iota of information from Canada. They've completely exposed Trudeau.
I know, but I'm no one to comment on what happened
I
between
understand.
government to government. All I can say is that, and I would urge people on both sides that, uh, it's people to people relationship when it comes to, countries. So I think Canada and India have great future together, great potential together, and we just need to, both countries need to handle whatever are the hiccups for the benefit of people on both sides. That's all I can say. I mean, as I was saying before,
I
also,
understand.
Canada in the past has contributed immensely with nuclear program and whatnot. And similarly, Indians and India have contributed a lot to Canadian fabric today. So that is all we
Yes.
need to remember and work out on these
We
differences
most,
and work out
yes, we most definitely.
work.
I completely agree with you, Ritesh, and I appreciate that sentiment because even
Yeah.
here in India today, we believe that dialing down tensions needs to be the need of the hour. But this is also a
Yeah.
country clearly that has demonstrated it, does not take these provocations lying down. It will defend itself. It will not take kindly to allegations of this kind, and it will respond in the way that it has because Khalistani terror
Absolutely,
is not a
absolutely.
joke. It's a diplomatic issue that needs to
Yeah.
be taken care of. Goes beyond just paperwork and relations between the two countries. This is about the safety of Indians, and let's not forget how many Canadians have been killed by Khalistani terrorists over the many years. Ritesh, Malik, always a pleasure. Thank you very much. Learned a lot about
Thank you.
India-Canada relations and hoping for the best. Stay safe. Thanks very much for being with us here in India today.